Story 1. Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. I even had the story spoiled before I played the game. I knew what would happen, and it still upset me. The second playthrough was no better. Just the sheer amount of character they put into him, and the story is impressive. Story 2. Stoic the Vast, How to Train Your Dragon. Dude literally just reunited with his wife after over 15 years of being gone and spends a total of about 15 minutes with her. Cause of death. Basically took a bullet in the chest to protect his son. Story 3. When Leslie from Bridge to Terabithia died, I was definitely distraught. I read that book at such a young age. I did not even comprehend that young girls could die at that time. Traumatized me. Story 4. That guy who gets killed on the bridge in Dante's Peak. The look on his face as he is helplessly thrown into the raging slide. Probably does not help that the entire scene is incredibly well done in terms of visual effects. Felt way too real. Same with that old grandma scene that was traumatic. That movie terrified me. Story 5. Jin Sakai's horse in Ghost of Tsushima collapses in the burning forest and snow from the arrow wounds, gasping for its last breaths as its eyes look up to Jin. Jin kneels down and says to his beloved dying horse, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you." Story 6. Few Men, Avocado from Final Space, Nora Fries from Arkham Knight, Ellie from Up, Bing Bong from Inside Out, the Old Man from Shawshank Redemption, Shireen from Game of Thrones, Hodder from Game of Thrones, Scarlett Johansson from Jojo Rabbit, the Dog from Futurama, Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the Animals from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Sarah Lynn from BoJack Horseman, the whole cast from Blackadder Season 4. Story 7. Amber from House. The whole scene with Wilson and turning off the bypass machine gets me every single time. Closely followed by Otis in Chicago Fire. Even more poignant when Cruz finds out what Otis's last words to him were in English. "Brother, I will be with you always." Story 8. Littlefoot's mom in Land Before Time. The scenes afterward with him laying in the footprint, confusing his shadow for her, and the one afterward with old Rooter make me bawl. Story 9. Ellie's story in Up is one of those that really hits home. Her life with Carl is shown through these little moments. Fixing up their house, saving for an adventure, just living together day by day. So relatable because their dreams keep getting sidetracked by real life. When Ellie dies, it's not just sad because she's gone, but because she and Carl didn't get to live out the big adventure they wanted. But at the same time, their life together was the adventure. Story 10. I watched General Hospital in my early teens. When I was 13, one of my favorite characters died, and my best friend and I spent a week mourning and feeling hysterical. A week later, he was found alive and recast, and I tried to turn off all emotions after that because I had felt so empty and then so angry. Story 11. Jared in Judging Amy, who died in real life. The phone call where Maxine, Amy's mom, receives the news that he had died 48 hours before their wedding was devastating. Story 12. Actually, I take that back. New answer. Wayne from Mistborn. He was such an amazing character. So funny. Add 2 and 2 and get a pickle. I'm investigating alternative states of sobriety. It is lucky. I ain't never died while wearing that hat. Story 13. This is very random and specific, but Noah from The Walking Dead is the only fictional character death I've ever sobbed over. I truly wasn't expecting to react that way. It's just that he was so young, so kind, and he died in so much pain. I couldn't deal with it, being that he was only a couple of years older than me at the time. Story 14. A cat from Aaron Hunter's Warrior Cats called Silverstream died from birth complications. I was sobbing in my bed at 11 years old. An honorable mention is Marco Bot from Attack on Titan. I still think about his death, and I watched that episode in 2014. I was scandalized when the truth came out. Story 15. Guido Orifice, The Father in Life is Beautiful. I was about 8 when my family decided to rent that one at Blockbuster. Boy, I was not ready for that movie. That and Grave of the Fireflies straight up traumatized me. Story 16. Beth Wilder from Quantum Break lately comes to my mind. At a very young age, She receives a notebook from her future self of all events to happen, including deaths, September 11th, 2001, and the plot of the game, the fracture in time. She witnesses all events and fails to stop all of them despite every conceivable effort, adhering to the Novikov self-consistency principle. She has to watch the man that she has to eventually help grow up. The fracture in time happens. After years of training and watching, she finally meets him. She helps Jack Joyce, finds a time machine, and tries going back to find critical equipment to fix the fracture in time. The doctor betrays her and sends her to the future, where time is stopped. She stays for an indeterminate time and escapes to 1999, having been born around 1990. She lives through the next 11 years all over again, including trying to stop September 11th for a second time. She is noticeably more tired and despaired. She meets Jack Joyce in 2010, despite only being minutes for him since he last saw her. The Ground Zero event happens, and Jack is pushed back to 2016. Paul, the antagonist, shoots her in the head in 2010. Story 17. I've never cried so much about a fictional character's death as I did with the dad from This Is Us. I'm talking full-blown sobs and snot. The works. Knew it was coming but didn't expect it to be as gut-wrenching as it was. Story 18. Only 2 fictional deaths ever made me cry. Mufasa when I watched The Lion King for the first time, I was 5, and Vegeta sacrificing himself when I was 6. As an adult, I think the saddest one was either Draco in Dragonheart or Boromir. Story 19. Michael in Jane the Virgin. I think the way Jane acts when she gets the phone call really seals the deal of devastation. I watched that episode when I was pregnant and super hormonal and cried my eyes out. My husband came home and thought something horrible had happened until I managed to tell him about the show. Story 20. Artax from the never-ending story, being swallowed by his own despair in the swamp of sadness. Man, that broke my little heart into a million pieces. I'm 36 now and I'd still cry watching that scene. Story 21. The protagonist being shot and killed with the woman he had tried to extract, the entirety of the book coming to an end by machine gun fire on a fence. Not all great stories have happy endings, and I hate it. Story 22. Turin Turambar from the Silmarillion, also known as the Wild Man of the Woods, the Wronged, the Dreadhelm, Bloodstained, Son of Ill Fate, Elfman, the Secret, Black Sword, Master of Doom, and Evil Fated. I know that Turin was a little annoying, but honestly, he had such a tragic life. He took his own life soon after finding out that his long-lost sister committed suicide. Story 23. My top saddest character deaths have all been called already. Thank you for opening these scars again. I want to add Arden and Noctis Lucas Selim from Final Fantasy XV. Deos from Tales of Fantasia also affected me pretty badly, which was my own fault because I played Tales of Symphonia and watched the Tales of Fantasia original video animation before playing the game, and I did not expect that last-minute plot twist. I was generally impressed. Story 24. John Locke from Lost. At the lowest point of his life, after he had realized that he would never fulfill his ambitions or be special, John hanged himself to death, but he was stopped at the last moment and led to believe that there was a chance he could finally be special and extraordinary. However, he was used one last time in his life and then killed in cold blood. Story 25. I do not know if it is because I was really young or what, but Bob Iapetus, in the House of Hades sacrificing himself for Percy and Annabeth absolutely took me out. I was in pieces. I sobbed like a baby when he goes, "Tell the stars I said hello," like I am tearing up just writing this comment. Story 26. Bruno and Shmuel together in The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Laura's son Simon in The Orphanage. That one bothers me to this day. If you haven't seen it and you enjoy thrillers, it's in Spanish, you really should watch it. Story 27. Setsuko in Grave of the Fireflies. Just pure misery, absolutely heartbreaking. There are so many other deaths in fiction that gut punch, but you cannot watch the last 20 minutes of Grave of the Fireflies without your soul fracturing a bit. Story 28. Auron from Final Fantasy X. I know, he was dead from the start, but he was also present for the whole journey, so I got attached. His sending scene made me cry buckets. and Gilles Hule in Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII. I'm forever taken by massive grief over the fact he slowly lost himself with all that he witnessed and discovered, to the point he thought himself unworthy of life, just a monster to be eliminated to keep himself from being a problem to others. The worst part is that he must die so the events of Crisis Core can flow back into the original Final Fantasy VII. He must pass his torch forward. But as someone who also struggles with depression, I wish there was some alternate timeline where he managed to find a cure and live. And Sukuroku from Showa Jinroku Rakugo Shinju. Everything hurts. Story 29, George in Young Sheldon. I knew it was coming, but the timing was heartbreaking. Things between him and Mary were getting better. He couldn't see Sheldon off for California or get his dream job. Story 30, Randy Meeks in Scream 2. He survived the entire first movie only to be killed in the second one for rightfully talking badly about a Ghostface killer from the first movie. Also, Rem in Death Note because she was basically manipulated to sacrifice herself by killing off Elle and Watari. I understand she literally killed 2 people, but she did that to ensure that Misa wouldn't be caught as Kira. Story 31. Shocked that Iron Man didn't make the list yet. I was very sad to see my beloved character die after a decade in such a heroic way in an amazing epic movie. Story 32. Henry from the Book of Henry. My dramatic self was so sad about his death that I decided to write a diary myself dedicated to my mother, and I wrote, "Only read this when I am dead," in big, bold letters. Anyways, my sneaky mother read my diary and I am still not dead yet. Story 33. No fictional death destroyed me as severely as the death of Lee in Telltale's The Walking Dead. It absolutely destroyed me. I cried for a few days after that ending. I was genuinely grieving, and I can't say I have felt like that before or since with any fiction, which is weird because there are so many stories out there that have touched me on a deep level. But none have made me go through a sense of grief like that game did. I was also going through depression at the time, so maybe it has something to say for the way I reacted. I don't know. I also think that the film A Ghost Story deals with the concept of death in a very deep and emotional way that likewise affected me profoundly. The ending hit me so hard I couldn't even cry. I just had to sit there for an hour in the dark and digest the emotions that film evoked in me. I love when art manages to touch something deep, universal, and true inside you. That is so special. Story 34. He screamed, and he would scream, and he would keep on screaming. Unendingly, something touched him, a hand. He clutched at it as it shook him gently. A voice called, "Raistlin, wake up. It was only a dream. Don't be afraid. I won't let them hurt you. Here, watch. I'll make you laugh." The dragon's coils tightened, crushing out his breath. Glistening black fangs ate his living organs, devoured his heart. Tearing into his body, they sought his soul. A strong arm encircled him, holding him close. A hand raised, gleaming with silver light, forming childish pictures in the night. And the voice, dimly heard, whispered, "Look, Raistlin, bunnies." He smiled, no longer afraid. Karaman was here. The pain eased. The dream was driven back. From far away, he heard a wail of bitter disappointment and anger. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Now he just felt tired. So very, very tired. Leaning his head upon his brother's arm, Raistlin closed his eyes and drifted into a dark, dreamless, endless sleep. Story 35. Spoilers for Horus Heresy. Garviel Loken the first time sucked hard, but I moved on. He came back, became even more of a dude. He survived till the last 20 pages of a 64-book, 20-year series, and was stabbed in the back, literally, by the most hated character in Warhammer. That absolutely gut-punched me. Story 36. Tough choice between Draco in Dragonheart, 1996, and the Giant in The Iron Giant, 1999. It gets me every time. And just looking into The Iron Giant, why is it only now I found out about the tragic death of voice actress Mary Kay Bergman? Story 37. The Last of Us Part 2. You know the one. I genuinely felt like I had lost a family member. Gut-wrenching, shocking, needlessly cruel. Only death I've blocked from my memory. I can't play the game again, won't watch the show, I just can't. Story 38. Wind River girl that runs away. Then the officers are killed in the shootout at the camp. They were doing their jobs and were spooked, but still kept going. I don't know why, but their death was so unexpected and brutal. Story 39. Ash from Banana Fish. Because this man, alright, he's been through a lot. So guns, violence, drugs, friends dying, him almost dying. And there was a point where his friend gave him a way out of this criminal life. And he's like, no, I'm going to die just because he knows his friend will be safer without him. It breaks my heart just hearing the opening and hearing, I'm Mr. Loverman, and I miss my lover, man. Story 40. I cannot believe no one has said this one yet. Winifred Burkle. Not just killed, but her soul consumed. Not in heaven or hell or another dimension. She was destroyed. And then the thing that destroyed her walked around wearing her face. No fictional death will ever mess me up more, I'm sure. Story 41. Lelouch Lamperouge from Code Geass. Itachi Uchiha from Naruto. Brothers who turned to the dark side to save their younger siblings and died to protect them always get me. Story 42. There are too many of such deaths. Supernatural Dean, Joe, and Bobby. Harry Potter Sirius, Hedwig, Dobby, Fred, and the Potters. The Vampire Diaries Cole. He had great potential to improve the show. Story 43. From the Jack West Jr. books by Matthew Riley. Max Epper, also known as Merlin or Wizard. It was just so unexpected, shocking, and memorable that I cried in school because I was reading during lunch.